susunod na programa ay rated PG. Ito ay nangangailangan ng patnubay at gabay ng magulang para sa mga batang manonood.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. signs into law the 5.268 trillion peso national budget for 2023. The government maintains the country's inflation target at 3% plus minus 1 percentage point for 2023 to 2024. The Philippine National Police goes on full alert as part of tightened security measures for the holiday season. Outbound passengers start flocking to Metro Manila transportation hubs for trips in time for the Yuletide holidays. Good evening. Welcome to PTV News Tonight. The President has finally affixed his signature to signify approval of the proposed 2023 national budget that went through both chambers of Congress while recording many firsts in our nation's history. It is the first of its kind for the current administration, also the fastest approved national outlay and the biggest thus far, giving the Marcos administration the necessary tool to continue steering the country towards economic recovery. Mark Vitalco has the full report.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has signed into law the 5.268 trillion peso 2023 General Appropriations Act. This is 4.9% higher compared to the 5.024 trillion peso national budget of 2022, while the passage is historically the fastest and earliest date that a national budget has been signed. The 2023 GAA aims to fund the country's post-pandemic recovery. Among the priority sectors are education, public works, health, social welfare, agriculture, and transportation. In his speech, the President said it was important to pass the national budget, especially as it would serve as a roadmap for government initiatives next year.
Sometimes regarded as a long, difficult, long drawn-out process, has been shown to still be able to express that kind of support, that kind of solidarity with the executive. And that bodes well for us. Seeing as we have many, many plans, there are many things that we need to do. There are many things that we would like to do. And we are slowly moving in that direction. We are doing all the structural changes that we need.
The Chief Executive thanked the Legislature and Department of Budget and Management who worked hard for the passage of the 2023 national budget, which will provide the government a tool to transform the economy.
Well, I will have, I suppose, a Merry Christmas, because this is as fine a Christmas gift as can be received by any president from his legislature. It is always very important that the GAA has been put together in consonance with all of the plans of the executive. And that kind of coordination and that kind of synergy that we will gain from that is going to be an essential part of the way that we move forward.
House Speaker Martin Romualdez said the national funding would be a big help in fulfilling the administration's development plans. For House Majority Leader Marix Dalipe, this is proof of the government's determination to quickly mobilize all the programs needed to revive the economy. Meanwhile, if Negros Oriental Representative Arnie Teves is to be asked,
dapat bigyan ng 1 bilyon na budget for farm-to-market roads ang lahat ng agricultural districts ng buong Pilipinas. It will help in two ways. Cheaper to produce, mas malaki pa yung kikitain ng farmer.
In a statement, Senate Committee on Finance Chairperson Sani Angara assured that the government's services will continue as early as first day of January next year. These include the targeted ayuda, continuation of Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, medical assistance for the poor, libreng sakay program, and a lot more for the benefit of Filipinos. A large portion of the 2023 national budget is dedicated to the agriculture sector with more than 170 billion pesos. Meanwhile, Senator Joel Villanueva said the next step of Senate is to ensure transparency and accountability in the spending of the national budget. Mark Fetalco for The Nation.
On Monday, December 12th, the House of Representatives passed nearly 24 bills to beat the Christmas break. Today, the House cleared a few more to cap a hectic yet historic work week, punctuated by the President signing off on the 2023 national budget. PTV senior correspondent Meleles Moras tells us more. Before the House of Representatives adjourned its session, several vital measures were approved on third and final reading. Like the bill certified as urgent recently by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., the House Bill number 6687, or the proposed National Citizen Service Training Program in all public and private tertiary education institutions in the country. In his message to Congress, the Chief Executive said this is important in order to enhance the capacity of our citizens to mobilize and perform personal military or civil services to the state in times of calamities, rebellion, or any emergencies. Apart from this, also passed on final reading was the first legislative measure filed by House Speaker Martin Romualdez, which was also part of the LEDAC priority bills. This is House Bill number 1, or the proposed Government Financial Institutions Unified Initiatives to Distress Enterprises for Economic Recovery, or GUIDE Act. Under the bill, state banks will expand their lending programs to help small enterprises to drive a stronger economic recovery. During his speech last night, Speaker Romualdez cited the record accomplishments of the House of Representatives in just the 19th Congress' first year.
In just about 5 months, we've approved on third and final reading 10 of these measures. In addition, 37 other national bills and 128 local bills were likewise approved on third and final reading.
He also recognized the efforts of each and every member of the lower chamber for the successful passage of the administration's priority bills, which he said will truly help the country's economic recovery.
These measures are calculated to alleviate poverty, sustain economic progress, and harness competencies in the government for the delivery of no less than the highest degree of service to the Filipino people.
Meleles Moras for The Nation.
The president hit it out of the park on his latest EU trip. He straightened out the issues hounding the country's maritime industry, drew EU officials and business people and other stakeholders on board the PH climate change agenda, put the EU-ASEAN partnership into greater focus, and then brought home the bacon with close to 10 billion in business deals pledged, as our Naomi Tiburcio reports.
The Philippines received almost 10 billion pesos investment pledges from European businesses after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s attendance at the ASEAN-EU Commemorative Summit in Belgium. Political analyst and Octa Research Fellow Professor Ranjit Rai says this proves the confidence of European investors in the Philippines. Rai insists the visit of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. to Europe is an important step to expand our bilateral cooperation with trade partners as the country's economy recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Magandang oportunidad yan, no? I-set yung tone. Lalo si Presidente is very strongly supportive of renewable energy, strengthening security relations, funding on economic and trade relations between EU. So this is a big...
As Europe is among the world leaders in maritime industry, Rai says the visit will provide more opportunities for work for more aspiring Filipino seafarers.
I think that the focus on maritime cooperation as well as lalo kasi alam mo marami tayong mga kababayan na seaman, no? Importante, the EU is one of the, if not one of the biggest set of countries that hire Filipino seafarers. So as a regional bloc, napakalaki ng impact niyan sa atin ekonomiya, na laging bukas yung EU sa atin mga seaman.
For the next 2 years, the Philippines will serve as country coordinator in the ASEAN-EU dialogue. This is also an important opportunity to advance the strategic issues of the two associations, such as climate change and maritime cooperation. Naomi Tiburcio for The Nation.
The government has retained its current inflation target for 2023 and 2024. According to the Development Budget Coordination Committee, the country's inflation target for the next 2 years remains at 3%, with a 1% margin of error. The DBCC also set the same inflation target for 2025 and 2026. Meanwhile, according to the central bank, the Philippine economy is expected to sustain its growth momentum going forward, mainly due to eased mobility restrictions and increased investments.
The Bureau of Customs seized 6 containers of undeclared agricultural products with an estimated value of 11.5 million pesos. According to the BOC, the shipments arrived from Hong Kong, China, and are consigned to Victory GM Enterprise of OPC. The cargo include fresh white onions, frozen fish, tofu, frozen beef, and others which require permits from the Department of Agriculture.
Amid higher electricity bills, a House Solon is pushing for the revival of nuclear energy in the country. Negros Oriental Representative Arnie Teves said Filipino households' electricity bills can be reduced in half if the country uses nuclear energy. The Solon is calling to revive the Bataan nuclear power plant to improve access to power supply. But if it can no longer function safely, he said the government can always build a new one.
The LRT1 and LRT2 managements announced shortened operating hours on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. On December 24th and 31st, the LRT1 will implement special train service operating hours, wherein the first train will leave as early as 4 a.m. The last train will leave Baclaran Station at 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve and 7 p.m. on New Year's Eve at Roosevelt Station. The last trip will be at 8:15 p.m. on the 24th and 7:15 p.m. on the 31st. Regular operating hours will return on December 25th and January 1. Meanwhile, the LRT2 will start operations as early as 6 a.m. on December 24 and 31. The last trips to Recto and Antipolo will be at 8 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. on the 24th respectively, and 7 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. on December 31st. On Christmas Day, the first train of LRT2 will leave at 6 a.m., while the last trip will be at 9:30 p.m.
Lawyers for the Commuter Safety and Protection Group are fed up and urge the Land Transportation Franchise Regulatory Board, LTFRB, to assign people inside taxis so cab drivers can't cherry pick or overcharge their passengers. According to the group's counsel attorney, Ariel Inton, it would be practically impossible for a cab driver to refuse service to a passenger hailing or flagging him down on the road if a LTFRB agent sat inside the cab. And likewise, there would be zero chances for a cab driver to overcharge a customer with someone inside watching him up close, especially during rush hour.
After weeks of rollbacks, prices of petroleum products are expected to go up next week. According to industry sources citing the first 4 trading days, gasoline prices may increase by 25 centavos to 30 centavos per liter. Oil firms may also hike prices per liter of diesel by 1 peso and 50 centavos to 1 peso and 60 centavos, while 1 peso to 1 peso and 10 centavos for kerosene. The expected price hikes are due to the EU embargo, G7's price cap on Russian crude, and the reopening of China's economy. The Philippine National Police is on full alert for the holiday season and has deployed additional policemen to provide security. PNP Chief General Rodolfo Azurin Jr. says the heightened alert status seeks to make the upcoming holidays more safe, meaningful, and enjoyable for everyone. Under the PNP directive, all police personnel will be on standby and ready to be deployed. All scheduled leaves of absence or days off are cancelled, while more checkpoints and patrol operations will be conducted.
The celebration of the 9 dawn masses preceding Christmas, popularly known as Simbang Gabi, has begun in several areas in the country. Joyce Salamatin with this report.
In Quiapo, Manila, devotees of the Black Nazarene did not miss the opportunity to hear Mass at the iconic church, especially since the staging of the Traslacion was once again cancelled due to the threat of COVID-19. Meanwhile, in Cebu, churchgoers, especially those severely affected by Typhoon Odette, went to various churches to pray for a better year in 2023. While in Davao, around 30,000 individuals attended the first dawn mass, but authorities say that the situation within places of worship were generally peaceful. While in Baguio City, the Catholic faithful flocked to the Baguio Cathedral to hear mass, especially since this is the first year that attending such gathering is allowed after years of being under health restrictions due to the global menace. Joy Salamatin for The Nation.
More and more people are turning up to fly the friendly skies as the Yuletide exodus out of the mega city starts to heat up. And to meet the surge of local tourists heading out elsewhere in the country, terminal reassignments, on-the-spot check-in services, and beefed-up manpower are in place at the NAIA that our Karen Villana details in this report.
Nancy and her partner were on their way to Katiklan when they got transferred from Terminal 4 to Terminal 3.
Actually, mabilis.
Talaga?
Yeah, mabilis siya, mabilis.
Mga anong oras ka nagpunta dito?
10 minutes ago. Yeah, mabilis siya. Wala naman siyang pila. Paiksi lang.
Due to the revenge travel of certain passengers, Terminal 4 was decongested of passengers flying to domestic routes. That's why starting today, the Cebu and Katiklan flights of AirAsia have been diverted to Terminal 3. It will reduce crowd volume by at least 13 flights or almost 4,000 passengers per day in Terminal 4.
May iba kasing pasahero hindi po nakakapag-catch up sa kanilang mga messages. Meron po kaming isang tinatawag na counter just for them. Okay, for this misrouted passengers. And number 2, meron din po kaming tinatawag na on-the-spot check-in. They can still check in, but on a case-to-case basis. And finally, we've set aside their luggages para wala pong dislocated na mga baggages. And more importantly, nakaabang po ang aming tinatawag na shuttle service that will bring them to the right destination or terminal.
The vehicle checkpoint entering the terminal was also dismantled to streamline the process of passengers going to the airport. Meanwhile, suspension of Philippines AirAsia Incorporated in the airports managed by the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines was put on hold though. This is because both parties decided on an amicable settlement. The airline has 1.1 billion pesos unsettled payments to government on its navigation charges and concession fees. Karen Villana for The Nation.
Bigger crowds and longer lines are beginning to form at the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, with a public set free from pandemic mobility restrictions and with a number of travelers having payback travel in mind. PTV's Rod Lagusad has the skinny in this report.
Just over a week until Christmas Day, Jim is already traveling to Batangas City and Oriental Mindoro with some family members to celebrate the holiday season.
Usually, yung a week before the holiday, yun talaga yung dagsa ng uwian sa probinsya. Since yung mga tao is dun palang matatapos yung trabaho at saka school.
He is excited to go home as this is the first in a long time because of the COVID-19 pandemic that he can visit his relatives.
Ngayon lang ulit ako for 3 years now. So laging dito ako nag-celebrate ng Christmas sa Manila.
While for Tony and his wife, they are going home to Quezon Province.
Kami magbiyahe na para hindi masyado masiksikan ang pag-alis namin. Para maganda ang biyahe.
For the expected influx of passengers, the management of Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange is already preparing. The average number of passengers in PTEX per day is around 140,000. This figure already exceeded the pre-pandemic figure.
And in-expect natin sa Christmas week, papalo pa yan ng 160 to 170,000 a day. Kaya naman ito, puspusan ng ating paghahanda para siguraduhin ng maraming bagay. Unang-una, yung sapat na bilang ng mga pampublikong sasakyan kasi napakamahalaga niyan. Pangalawa, yung seguridad. Seguridad sa loob ng pampublikong sasakyan. Dapat ito yung roadworthy, di ba? Dapat ito yung mga kondisyon na sasakyan lamang at kondisyon din ng mga pampublikong tsoper.
Because of this, the LTO will conduct roadworthiness tests for buses and random drug tests for drivers, while for the security, the PNP and IAC will be in charge. Salvador added that PTEX already coordinated with DOTR and LTFRB for special permits for buses. And although the restrictions have been relaxed, PTEX reminded the public to follow minimum health protocols.
Ang pinaka-peak niyan is on the 23rd. That's a Friday, I think. So, kasi karamihan sa mga pasahero natin, mga daily wage earners yan. So, siyempre, sasamantayin pa nila yung pagkakataon makapaghanap buhay pa this whole week para naman makapagdala sila ng mga kanilang regalo.
On December 26, PTEX expects the influx of passengers coming home here in Metro Manila and also in the celebration of New Year the following week. Passengers are advised to purchase tickets earlier to avoid any inconvenience. Rod Lagusad for The Nation.
The increased need for personal protective equipment inevitably led to an accumulation of medical waste, which are sometimes improperly disposed. That's why the Department of Health is very thankful for the UN Development Program's latest equipment donation to a hospital in Manila. Jillian Geronimo has the details.
To support the country's fight against COVID-19, the United Nations Development Program turned over an autoclave equipment to the Department of Health this morning at the Jose Rodriguez Memorial Hospital in Caloocan City. The UNDP and DOH eye to address the issue of infectious medical waste through the use of the equipment, which will handle the proper disposal of these wastes. A specialist explained that the autoclaving process includes the sterilization, cooling, and shredding of medical waste to ensure that these are no longer infectious before disposal. Aside from this, part of the project is the provision of supplemental medical supplies for waste management and the training of personnel in the operation of the autoclave. Despite the issue of medical waste remaining to be one of the most critical challenges towards the healthcare system, an official of the Jose Rodriguez Memorial Hospital said the volume of infectious medical waste they collect has decreased, partly because patients are choosing to stay at home instead of getting themselves admitted in a hospital.
The volume of the waste, infectious solid waste, no, this December compared sa November na data namin, nag-decrease ngayon.
Meantime, as the new year is fast approaching, the DOH said it will visit 4 major hospitals in Metro Manila to prepare them for people seeking treatment for firecracker injuries. The agency still encourages the public to refrain from using them to avoid injuries.
Imbis na tayo ay magpapaputok, magpailaw na lang po tayo. We welcome New Year safely. Ibig sabihin, walang injuries, walang mauuspital dahil sa paggamit ng firecrackers.
Jillian Geronimo for The Nation.
Shares in Asian, U.S. and European markets declined on Friday over fears of recession following the interest rate hikes of several central banks. Major U.S. stock indices, including Dow Jones, S&P 500, and NASDAQ, traded more than 2% lower, while European stocks fell almost 1%. Shanghai Composite Index shed 0.4%, Tokyo's Nikkei lost 2%, while shares in Taiwan dropped more than 1%. The wave of selling comes as the Fed and central banks in Europe raised key rates.
As part of efforts to tame soaring prices, the Bank of England decided to raise interest rates anew by 0.5 percentage point. It increased rates from 3% to 3.5%. This is the highest level since 2008, which means higher mortgage payments for some homeowners and those with loans. In the meantime, the European Central Bank also raised interest rates by 50 basis points as expected and hinted on plans to lift them further next year. The Bank of England and the ECB were the latest central banks to follow in the footsteps of the U.S. Federal Reserve.
Social media platform Twitter has suspended accounts of many journalists after its new owner, Elon Musk, warned against those tracking his private jet. Among those suspended were accounts for journalists from CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Voice of America, as well as some independent journalists. The reason of suspension was not immediately clear, but many of the reporters have written articles or posted about changes made to Twitter.
And here are the results of tonight's multi-million peso lotto draws from the PCSO.
Good evening, lotto players. For those who missed our draws today, December 16, 2022, I will be doing a recap of the winning numbers. Let's start with the results of the 2 p.m. draw. For the 2D Lotto, 20 and 26 in exact order. 3D Lotto, 9, 7, and 9 in exact order. And the results of the 5 p.m. draw for the 2D Lotto, 13 and 2 in exact order. 3D Lotto, 0, 9, and 1 in exact order. And finally, the results of the 9 p.m. draw for the 2D Lotto, 18 and 30 in exact order. 3D Lotto, 3, 0, and 4 in exact order. 4D Lotto, 9, 9, 0, and 0 in exact order. For the Mega Lotto 645, 30, 6, 9, 21, 15, and 36 in any order. For the jackpot prize of 89,341,826 pesos and 40 centavos, net of the agent's prize commission. And for the Ultra Lotto 658, 9, 23, 30, 49, 33, and 6 in any order. For the jackpot prize of 411,769,310 pesos and 80 centavos, net of the agent's prize commission. Do we have jackpot winners tonight? According to the PCSO Data Center, for the Mega Lotto 645, we have no jackpot winner. And for the Ultra Lotto 658, we have no jackpot winner. That's all for tonight. Romy Season po for the PCSO Lottery Draw Recap. Thank you and good evening. Pagasa says the northeast monsoon will affect the weather conditions over northern Luzon. Based on its latest forecast, due to the said weather system, there will be cloudy skies with rains in Cagayan Valley, Aurora, northern portions of Quezon, Ilocos region, and the Cordillera Administrative region. In the meantime, Metro Manila and the rest of the country will have partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers and thunderstorms due to the Intertropical Convergence Zone, or ITCZ, and localized thunderstorms. And let's now find out what the weather will be like in key Philippine and Asian cities. Senator Amy Marcos and a non-governmental organization, Heart Warrior of the Philippines Incorporated, spread Christmas cheer to children battling heart illnesses at the Philippine Heart Center. The parents of the children were very thankful for the kind gesture that the lawmaker and the NGO extended to their sons and daughters. Some of the 100 or so beneficiaries have already experienced at a very young age and are currently undergoing complicated medical procedures like open heart surgery. But despite life's challenges, the children and their parents still want to continue to fight, and gestures like these help them forget, even just for a while, the burden that they continue to carry every day.
Fire victims in Don Bosco, Parañaque received assistance from the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Senator Christopher Bongo led the distribution of food packs, face masks, and vitamins to the affected residents temporarily seeking shelter at a covered court. Also, the fire victims received financial assistance, which they say will help them get back on their feet after a nightmarish ordeal.
The GSIS Theater for Performing Arts at the GSIS main office premises on Rojas Boulevard is back in service after several months of rehab. And for today's relaunch, a full-piece orchestra played music for the crowd of employees, visitors, and guests, to include GSIS Head Honcho General Manager Wick Veloso and PTV4 Big Boss Julio Castillo. According to President and General Manager Wick Veloso, the months-long renovation did not interfere or alter the original face of the buildings to preserve the historical integrity and rich heritage of the structure.
Pine City may be the country's default summer hideaway, but it still draws huge numbers from all over the country, even in cold, chilly weather. PTV's Jillian Geronimo tells us more on a surge of visitors seen lately in Baguio City in this report.
From Bohol, Feli will head to Baguio City for her vacation as she really misses the cold weather of the City of Pines.
There, parang you're close to nature.
Baguio City is definitely a choice destination for tourists this holiday season. According to DOT Cordillera, the months of October to December is the peak season in the Cordillera Administrative Region, especially in Baguio City. In fact, from January to September, over 600,000 tourists visited the Cordilleras, most of them in Baguio City. The tourism sector in the city can be considered back to pre-pandemic levels.
Ang basis naman natin ay yung occupancy rate ng mga hotels natin. Halos punuan na yung mga accommodation establishments, and so we are happy that they're back in the regular business, no? After 2 years of hiatus.
And just a few days before Christmas, an influx of tourists is expected. As early as now, there is difficulty in booking hotel accommodations there. That's why the DOT reminds tourists to always be responsible. To avoid vacation hassles, make sure to have advanced booking in accredited hotels.
Part of responsible tourism is really to patronize legitimate businesses who pay their taxes to the government, which will be returned to public service or social services naman din.
Although there is no need to register on the Visita Baguio website, tourists are still encouraged to register here if they wish to have a guide on their vacation. The DOT also assured it is in coordination with the Baguio LGU to ensure security in the area.
Ang kanilang coordination with the City Police Department is really very visible, no? The Department of Tourism has also been present in all the in most of the coordination meetings with the PNP, no, to ensure na smooth yung not just the traffic situation, ma-manage efficiently, but also yung safety and security, not just for the tourists but for the locals as well.
Jillian Geronimo for The Nation.
One cannot stress how important our seas and oceans are to the overall balance of life, not only here but to the entire planet as well. Thus, a park in Manila has come up with an attraction that will not only entertain visitors but also ingrain this message to them, especially to the young ones who may or may not inherit this earth, depending on how we act now. Luisa Erispe tells us more.
Are you looking for a fun and educational trip this Christmas season? Something romantic but also wholesome for the family? Well, look no further because the perfect place for you is right here in Manila. This park in Manila, aside from being well known for its oceanic features and experience, has launched a new project that is both fun and educational at the same time. It has its first virtual Pandoran Ocean, where you can create your own sea creature, and once completed, you can donate $5 straight to the Nature Conservancy, which will protect our ocean.
So Manila Ocean Park joined the Disney and Avatar in the Keep Our Oceans Amazing campaign, where we will host yung virtual Pandoran Ocean, and for every time na yung guests mag-participate, Disney US will be donating $5 to the Nature Conservancy, which is a non-profit that is aimed to support and help our 10 amazing ocean creatures. So after Manila Ocean Park closed after 18 months, so we were finally able to accept more guests sa pagbaba ng mga restriction. So last 2021, when we reopened, we weren't able to prepare yung mga Christmas na activities. So this year, we prepared very big surprises for our guests.
This is the first virtual ocean launched in Southeast Asia. It aims to encourage the public to show their support in preserving the beauty of the ocean. For Princess, this may be something new, but for her 5-year-old daughter, it is really enjoyable.
More on attraction siya sa mga bata.
para makita nila yung mga iba't ibang klase ng mga isda. Marami siyang matututunan dito, lalo na yung mga iba-ibang uri ng isda.
Whatever kind of celebration you wish this Christmas, it doesn't matter if it is simple or extravagant. What matters the most is that you express your love to your family. Luisa Erispe for The Nation.
In celebration of the Christmas season, SM Pampanga turned its Ferris wheel into a giant Christmas lantern or parol to attract tourists and visitors from afar. The iconic Pampanga Eye was decorated with thousands of festive lights, making it a must-see attraction in the province. SM Supermalls aims to inspire its shoppers and bring back the joy lost for the last 2 years because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Hundreds of people went to see tonight's Ferris wheel lighting ceremony.
In news overseas, rescue efforts are underway after a deadly landslide in Malaysia that killed more than a dozen people. In the meantime, a huge aquarium in Berlin, Germany bursts, causing a wave of destruction in the city's tourist attraction. These and other global stories in tonight's Foreign News Roundup by Meg Luna.
At least 16 people died, including a 5-year-old boy, while 17 others are feared buried after a landslide at a tourist campground in Malaysia. Local authorities said around 94 Malaysians are believed to have been at the campsite in Batangkali to pitch or rent tents from the farm when the incident occurred. Hundreds of personnel, including tracking dogs, were deployed for the search and rescue operations. In Germany, a huge aquarium in Berlin's sea life tourist attraction suddenly burst and broke into pieces, wreaking damage in and around the building. The 25-meter-high aquarium, which contained 1 million liters of water, exploded early Friday. Video showed glass and other debris being swept out of the building. Although the cause of the incident is still being investigated, there are reports that freezing temperatures in the city may have contributed to the leak. A ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine is unlikely to happen this Christmas. The Russian government says it has not received any offer, adding that such topic is not on its agenda. This even as the release of dozens more prisoners the past few days show that some contacts between the two sides remain. Meanwhile, Thailand's Princess Bajrakitiyaba is recovering after being hospitalized due to a heart problem. According to Thailand's royal palace, the princess collapsed Wednesday evening while training her dogs in Bangkok. The 44-year-old princess, the eldest child of Thailand's king, is the nation's top diplomat to Austria. Meg Luna for The Nation.
The Philippine women's national football team dominated their friendly exhibition game versus Papua New Guinea. We have this report from Rafael Bandayrel.
The Philippines took on Papua New Guinea in a friendly exhibition match. Still, the Filipinas wrapped up their 2022 campaign in a grand fashion. The Pinay Booters showed their innate skills when they crushed their rivals 9-0 in their rematch held at the Western Sydney Wanderers Park in Australia Thursday evening. Quinly Quezada led the Filipinas with her first career hat-trick, scoring 3 goals for her team. Katrina Giliu added 2 more goals in the 24th and 72nd minutes. Also contributing with 1 goal apiece were Sarah Exvic, Jessica Cowart, and Tanay Anes. Meanwhile, PNG's own goal upped the Filipinas score to 9. In a statement, Filipinas head coach Alan Stachich expressed elation over the team's dominant performance. It will be recalled that the Pinay Booters also dominated Papua New Guinea, a team ranked 2 spots above the Philippines in the world rankings in their exhibition match earlier, 5-1. Rafael Bandayrel for The Nation.
And we wind up this week's newscast with this quote from one of the most famous authors in English literature, Jane Austen. Her novels became timeless classics which remain critical and popular successes even after her death. The Jane Austen Center has declared December 16 her birth anniversary as Jane Austen Day. And she once said, "There is no charm equal to tenderness of heart."
There are only 9 days to go before Christmas. Well, so goes PTV News Tonight's roundup of tomorrow's headline stories. I'm Joey Gilas.
I'm Monique Tuzon.
And I'm Sharms Espina. Join us again next week here at PTV News Tonight. Stay safe.